Hey guys, welcome back to Lifeline Worship Keys. So this is lesson 4. We titled this lesson the Systematic Chromatics. So we're going to talk about, let's review first the challenge that you did last week. So last week Kristen taught you how to do the C scale and the F scale with both hands. So you already knew how to do it in the right hand, just like so with the C scale. This is just a review. Now let's move on to the F scale with the right hand. So be sure you're able to do that. Now let's also move on to the left hand. So here's the left hand C scale. All right, let's also move on to the left hand's F scale. Now, as you get farther along in the program and the more that you get to practice with these scales, the better your hands are going to become. Mine and Kristen's hands have become very muscular because we do practice our scales quite often. So, the farther you get along in this process, the more your hands are going to get stronger and you're going to be able to hit the notes a little bit better. So just a reminder, as a little reminder, please make sure that you're completing the lesson and that you're able to do the scales and the challenge that we've assigned with those lessons, and make sure that you're able to do them perfectly before moving on. Because if this is the foundation portion of the curriculum. So if the foundations are not set correctly, as you know, then there's no way that we're going to be able to build up from there. So please make sure that you review previous lessons if you have questions, or if you have anything that you need to review for a future lesson. But let's jump right into this. So like we said, we named this lesson the Systematic Chromatics. We're going to kind of review a little bit over the half step and the whole step once again, and we're going to introduce something called the Chromatic Scale. So the Chromatic Scale is a 12-note scale consisting entirely of half steps and including all black and white keys provided within a given octave. So a chromatic scale, so Kristen talked about with a major scale, is that it follows a pattern, a whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So every major scale that you'll learn in this curriculum will follow that same pattern. So let's demonstrate that again. So here's a whole, here's a whole, here's a half, because there's no note in between, there's no black key. That's a half. Then we have 3 wholes following. So here's a whole note, because there's a key in the middle. Whole note, whole note, and then we have one last final half step. Okay? So make sure that you're able to identify a half step and a whole step from each other, so that way when you start practicing scales on your own more, you'll be able to identify what the pattern is in each scale. So let's talk about a chromatic scale. So chromatic scales, like we said, based on your vocabulary sheet, is a scale of 12 tones that are all half steps. So if we start at C, now this scale also follows a finger position, and I believe it's on your finger position chart, but if not, you can always ask one of us if you see us, or ask one of the leaders here at Lifeline. They should be able to tell you, but we're going to review it in here. So you're going to start on your thumb. If you start on C, here's your thumb. So the chromatic scale is very easy because it only consists of 3 fingers: your thumb, your index finger, and your middle finger. Okay? So you're going to start on your thumb. Most every scale starts on your thumb. So we're going to start here. Now, we're not going to use our index finger for the next note. We're going to use our middle finger. Okay? So we're going to go up a half step. Alright, so now we've used our middle finger. There's a half step. We're going to go up to the next half step, the next half step, the next half step. Now notice that all that used the thumb and the index finger. Here we will use the thumb and the middle finger, excuse me. Now we'll use the thumb and the index finger. So from E to F on the right hand, we're going to use the thumb on the E and the index finger on the F. So we're going to start on F now. So we're on the index finger on the F, and now we're going to go to the middle finger on the black key. Then we're going to use the thumb on the next white key, the middle finger on the next black key, the thumb on the next white key, then the middle finger on the next black key, the thumb on the next white key, and then we're going to finish it off with our index finger. Okay? So, when you practice this, make sure that you practice this scale one at a time, one hand at a time. It's much simpler to be able to learn this scale, just doing it right hand or just doing it left hand, whichever one is more dominant. And we'll teach the left hand here in a few minutes, but most people are right-handed, and most people it comes naturally on the right hand. So I'm going to do this just a little bit faster. Pay attention to my finger position, and the reason why these finger positions are pretty much they're universal is because it's the way the hand lays on the keyboard. It's very natural for the hand to move this way. If you use certain other fingers, it's much more difficult, from going from like a 1 to a 4. So just watch my fingers as we do this, okay? For C, C sharp, D flat, D natural, D sharp, E flat, thumb on E, F, F sharp, G flat, G natural, G sharp, A flat, A natural, A sharp, B flat, B natural, and then finish it on C. Now, let's move on to the left hand. So on the left hand, it's the same pattern. So you're going to start on the thumb on C. Okay, so we start on thumb. Then we go to the next half step. We go thumb to the middle finger. Okay, then this is for C sharp and D flat. And then we move on to the thumb again for D. Then we go to the middle finger for D sharp and E flat. Now, we use the index finger the first time, and we go from D sharp and E flat to E using the index finger. Then we go to the thumb on F. Then we go back to the middle finger on F sharp and G flat. Then we use thumb. Then we use middle finger. We use thumb, middle finger. And then we go to the index finger once again. And then we go back to the thumb. So that's one octave using the left hand of the chromatic scale. So also, this week, you have quite a bit as a challenge. So please make sure that you're able to practice this scale all the way up and down the keyboard. And I'm just going to demonstrate one octave, but we'd like for you to be able to go up and down the keyboard because this is going to be able to practice your finger positions and keeping a steady tempo while you do scales. This will come in handy as you learn more scales later on in the curriculum. So here's one octave using the right hand. So coming down is the exact same pattern as going up. So make sure that you use the natural hand placement for coming down as you did for coming up. Now here is the left hand. So we're going to start down here with the thumb. And here's one octave using the left hand. So be sure if you get to a point where you believe that you can do both hands, please do it slowly and make sure that you keep the same steadiness and the same tempo as you did with the previous hands, okay? So I'm going to do it both octaves. Here we go. Now, please make sure that you use the appropriate fingerings for the left hand and the right hand. Notice that these two are different. the E and the F on the left hand and the E and the F on the right hand have different finger positions for the octave. Does that make sense? Okay. So also, we're going to introduce 2 new scales today for this week. And this week might take you more than 1 week, and that is completely fine. Some of these lessons that we have a lot of material in them, so please don't be afraid to review them later on in the curriculum and be able to go back and make sure that you know how to do all these challenges. Okay. So we're also going to introduce the G scale, which if you look at your circle of fifths sheet, that reference sheet that you get with your folder, the circle of fifths, if you count from C, so 5 notes up from C, like Kristen discussed last lesson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's G. So this scale has 1 sharp. You've learned the C scale, which has 0 sharps, 0 flats. The F scale, which has 0 sharps, 1 flat. And now you'll learn G scale, which has 0 flats and 1 sharp. So let's start on G. Make sure that when you learn scales that you also use your finger positions chart, and that way you can apply that to this as well. So here's G with the right hand. Here's G with the left hand. So make sure that as we learn more scales that you're still using your finger positions chart, and that you're also taking these extremely slow. Okay. Make sure you're also using your circle of fifths chart. That will help you determine which note is sharp, which note is flat, and how many sharps and how many flats are in each circle of fifths, in each scale. So we're going to talk about the B-flat scale now. This is a part of your challenge for lesson 4. So for this lesson, also make sure that you start with your right hand for the B-flat scale. Make sure you also refer to your finger positions chart and you keep a steady tempo, and make sure you know how many flats are in this scale. Okay, there's 2 flats in this scale. So we're going to start with the second finger, the index finger on B-flat. Then we're going to go to the thumb on C. Then we go to the index finger on D. We go to the middle finger on E-flat. Then we go to the thumb on F. We go to the index finger on G. And then we go to the middle finger on A. And then we go to the ring finger on B flat at the top. So in a progression, this scale looks like this. So this scale is a little bit different from the other ones because it starts on the index finger instead of starting on the thumb. So where it starts on the index finger, you're going to have a little bit different of a finger position. So make sure that you pay attention to that. Now let's move on to the left hand. So on the left hand, you start on the 3. You start on the middle finger on B flat. Then you go to the index finger on C. You go to the thumb on D. Then you cross over with your ring finger on E flat. Go to your middle finger on F. Go to your index finger on G. Then you go to your thumb on A. And then you finish out the scale on your middle finger on B flat. So this scale looks like this. So congratulations, you've just completed lesson 4 in your journey to becoming a worship keyboard player.